AQ's Blog and Grill.
Hi everyone, and welcome to AQ's Blog and Grill. We're really excited today to have Ann Handley. Ann is the Chief Content Officer of MarketingProf's. Ann, how did you make the transition from the voice of Jack in the Box in the restaurant world into being the Chief Content Officer of MarketingProf's? How did that happen?
That's way back. So I spent a short period of time working the window at MarketingProf's, but luckily I graduated high school. So step one, stay in school.
There you go.
And step two, I went to school to become a journalist, essentially. And I became a journalist at a business newspaper here in Boston. And I also worked for a number of daily publications, including the Boston Globe for a period of time. And then the internet happened. So I co-founded a company called clickz.com, which was essentially a competitor, or is a competitor to MarketingProf's. Sold that in 2000 and joined MarketingProf's in 2002, so right. 11 years ago.
Wow. So how important is journalism going to be in terms of new content and creating engaging content?
Yeah, I think that we can learn a lot from the world of journalism. Mm-hmm. Increasingly we're seeing brands hire journalists, hiring brand journalists, and also hiring storytellers, who are sometimes have similar skill sets and sometimes they don't. But I think the thing that journalists and storytellers share is that they have a very customer-centric view. They know how to tell a story. They know how to draw the audience in. They know how to draw people in and connect, and then disseminate to grow an audience specifically. Right. So, I'm a big fan of learning what we can from the worlds of journalism and storytelling, and hiring those people to be part of your marketing staff, because content marketing is a brand new muscle that we all have to develop. Right. And those are some, those people almost, they already have the skills. So in a way it's hacking on what we all need to do.
So when you hear the expression or the proclamation that content is king, how do you feel about that as a journalist and as a storyteller?
I think it's true. First of all, I do think in my world, content is everything. I think in marketing, increasingly, content is so much a cornerstone of what we're doing. Yep. It's always been part of marketing. Content has always been a big part of it. But because of advances in journalism and technology and social media, and you know this, Alan, it's increasingly a cornerstone of it. I think it really has to be at the heart of your marketing. Your story, your content has to be at the heart of your marketing.
Yes. You just posted something on empathy and empathy and engagement. So come on, what has empathy got to do with marketing?
You're just saying that to rile me up. I think the world needs more empathy. I think we need more empathy in business. I think we need more empathy in our lives, period. But I think it relates specifically to business because, when you think of things with a great degree of empathy, you're looking at things in the world of business through your customer's eyes.
Right.
I think, traditionally in marketing, it's been a very corporate-centric messaging. When I said that the content has always been part of marketing, it's because it's typically been pushing out messages. It's been a very corporate-centric approach. And so I think adding empathy into the mix, and that's only one part of what I think is the equation for truly great content. Right. But when you add empathy into it, it allows you to see the world through your customers' eyes, through their point of view.
Right.
One of the things I always talk about is, what would your marketing look like? What would your content look like if your customer signed your paycheck? And that to me is will they thank you for it? So when you get to that level, that's having true empathy. That's having extreme empathy, as I talked about just last week at Content Marketing.
When people say, the content is king and storytelling is so important, it's got to be great storytelling.
My formula, if you will, for really great content is empathy times inspiration times utility. By utility, I mean, things that our friend Jay Bear talks about all the time is creating content that's truly useful. Does it help people do something?
With a purpose.
Right, with a purpose. But then the inspiration piece is, I think, the part that you're talking about. content that's created with inspiration, and sometimes that's creative inspiration, like a true, campfire storytelling. Somebody who really has some passion and cares about what they're doing, has conviction the way they deliver it.
Right.
But also inspiration based on data. What does your data tell you?
Right.
What does your audience relate to? You can't look at the faces around the campfire necessarily and see whether they're nodding off or whether they're engaged. So what is your data telling you? And what do you know about your audience? And that's all part of having a very empathetic, audience-centric view.
There you go. How do you, as the chief content officer, how do you keep ahead? Because people expect very high quality from that site and from you in particular. How do you keep improving?
It's certainly not just me. There's a fantastic staff who works here who really do the hard work of finding the best speakers, finding the best writers, doing a lot of social prospecting, as we call it here, listening to conversations on Twitter, looking at what is igniting conversation on Facebook, trolling LinkedIn groups, finding people who have a point of view, a perspective, who have something to say, and then bringing them into, the MarketingProf's community. But on a personal level, people always ask me, who do you read? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Right.
And for me personally as a content creator, and honestly, I get a lot of my inspiration from our world outside of marketing. I read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of humor. I read a lot of autobiographies, and I get a lot of inspiration that way. I think that's how it has really helped me become a much better writer, just looking outside of my bubble a little bit.
Who are you reading on the fiction side?
So, well, actually, right now I'm reading David Sedaris, and I don't know whether you'd call that fiction or nonfiction, but
hard to tell.
You'd call it hilarious.
Yes.
I read the New Yorker on a regular basis as
Yes.
much as I can. That's like eating a pot roast a week. It's just it's a lot of content. But I try to get through that, and I learn a lot from them about the way that they approach stories, actually.
Yeah.
The way that they package them. I'm kind of fascinated by the way content is packaged just for content's sake.
You shared with us, I think, a tremendous story, again, about how Anne grew up with fear, something we all do. And you showed a picture of Simon.
Yes.
And I know Simon passed away.
Yes.
But you said something so thoughtful and sincere and insightful.
The big lesson that I shared about Simon then was that, he assumed everybody loved him. And if you didn't love him, you just didn't know him well enough yet.
Right.
And so I think I've definitely learned that. And that's a big lesson I think that we can all learn as people.
Yeah. How quickly is content going to go video and electronic? In other words, getting not past the written word, but outside of the written word.
Yeah, I think we're there. I think people have been saying for a long time that, that video is the next big thing. We just ran an article in MarketingProf's last week, and the opening quote was, video is going to be the next big thing, says just about everyone. And I think that's absolutely true. I think we are there. We're seeing, far more visual content, far more, both, video content as well as just, visual content like Instagram, like Pinterest, like Instagram video, Vine, all these tools that I think make it really easy to create content. I think video is getting easier. It's getting, the bandwidth issues are being solved. And so yeah, I definitely think it's a very engaging platform, and I think brands are going to increasingly embrace it. Why I love Vine so much wasn't so much that, for it as a super short video content platform, as much as what it actually did, which was to condense all of these steps that it used to take to creating a short video into just one or two.
Yeah.
And so to me, that represents, such an incredible evolution.
Right.
And so I think, we're there. We're going to see these tools, emerge just to make it easier to put video in the hands of everyday brands, not just brands like Red Bull and Nike and Oreo and, Coke, not the biggest brands, but even, brands, B2B brands.
B2B
the ones that we're
brands, for sure.
Be seeing it at the B2B forum in a couple weeks,
Yeah. And it's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
If you have any questions or comments for Anne, leave them on the blog, and we'll forward them on to Anne for a response. Thanks for watching.
AQ's Blog and Grill.